Greetings and welcome to this edition of
Positronic.
I'm Barry P. Cook. Let's talk about the latest episode of Star Trek Discovery. It was called Anomaly. And as it opens, we find Book on his ship studying the event that damaged the ship in the wake of his planet's destruction, which he's very traumatized by. We next see that Saru has arrived on Discovery, apparently at Burnham's request, but we find out that he's going to be staying in touch with Sokal and acting as counselor to his people in absentia, while also serving as Burnham's XO. Several Discovery officers, the Admiral, the Federation President, and the leader of Navarre, which is still not in the Federation, gather to discuss the anomaly crisis. Discovery heads out to investigate the anomaly close up. It turns out that the anomaly is a gravity well, at least it appears to be, but it's giving off readings that don't entirely comport with it being a gravity well. So that's kind of weird. Book decides to go into the anomaly in his ship when the only way Discovery could scan it properly is to get too close for a ship of its configuration. And he and Burnham have a discussion about it being too dangerous with him at the helm because he's in a really bad state. She was going to have Detmer go into the anomaly in his ship when he pointed out that his ship can change configuration and so forth. And the scene where they have this discussion was really great from an acting standpoint and even from a writing standpoint. It just seemed very true to life. It's, they did a good job inhabiting the characters as people going through the emotions that they're going through in the scene, but I found that it was a more emotional scene than I'd have liked on Burnham's part. Throughout this series, these Starfleet characters, they give into their emotions way too easily, or they give over to their emotional state way too easily. It's almost as if they're not in Starfleet a lot of the time, between how emotional they are on a regular basis and how they are so familiar with each other in their exchanges, which wouldn't be the case. This is not to say that on the other Star Trek shows, the characters didn't behave in a familiar way with each other and were never emotional, because they were. But they didn't ever seem to me to have such an easy time being emotional, because officers in any sort of military or hierarchical organization are supposed to be stoic, and they're supposed to maintain professionalism, and they're supposed to maintain a state of even-keeledness. They're not supposed to be flighty and as free with their emotions as you would be if you weren't serving in uniform. Yet these characters are all the time. And I don't know, it really bothers me. Anyway, the next scene that we come across is a scene where Gray, who again has survived as a consciousness within Adira, gives what is to be his new body the once-over with Culber and Adira standing by. And there's a conversation about it being based on the synthetic body that Dr. Soong Jr. made for Picard that conveniently worked well enough for him, but didn't have a high enough success rate when it was apparently used after that with other people, causing use of this type of synthetic body to be discontinued. But at the same time, somehow 800 years after that, it seems to be the best option for Gray somehow. That didn't make any sense. Gray also says during this scene that he's excited because having this body could mean that he'd be able to be a host again, which I don't think would work because it's an android body, it's synthetic. I don't see that working. He also mentions having transitioned in his life, which I think is a reference to him having transitioned from female to male, and I wasn't sure that it was necessary for them to mention that, but he does. And Culber then mentions that his consciousness had already survived a move from his body to Adira's, which I guess happened via the symbiote, but why only his? And why am I saying only his? The personalities and the beings of all the different hosts are alive in the symbiote or present in the symbiote. And so it's not weird that his sort of being is there, but it is weird that his consciousness is there in a complete way, like his complete consciousness, because I don't think that was ever, I don't know, it's hard to say, but like, why only his then? why is he the only one that Adira sees? Like, I don't get that. And, you know, because they're Trill, right? He's a Trill, he's not Vulcan. And to my knowledge, the Trill don't have like Katras like Vulcans do. And this sort of thing certainly didn't happen when Dax was temporarily inside someone else between Jadzia and Ezri. So what is this? They're like making shit up. What I want to know is, and I may have asked this before, why did they kill this character? If, you know what I'm saying? Like, when season 3 starts, he's already dead, right? And we only see him alive in a flashback, if I'm not mistaken. So why did they do that? If the plan was then to just have his consciousness survive, you know, his death, and then be put in a body such that now he's just walking around the ship like everybody else. Like, why not just have him not be dead? What was the point of that? Like, was the point of that to put the symbiote into Adira so that they could do all that business that they did with Adira and the host and going to Trill and all that in season 3? I don't understand. And if this wasn't the intention from the beginning, why are they doing it? Like, why give him a body? Like, I don't understand, like, why that's necessary. It's just, I don't know. No matter how you slice this, it's dumb. Anyway, moving along. Stamets ends up going along with Book on his ship as a hologram because, of course, Michael gave in and stopped objecting to him being the one to pilot his ship into the anomaly. Stamets goes with him, but it's as a hologram, which I thought was hokey because, you know, at the same time they're saying other things about, well, we can't scan from here and the communication is not garbled and we're going to keep a tether on them. And like, so then how does the hologram get sent over there? I don't know. Things end up getting rough for Book's ship and Discovery when conditions of the anomaly change unexpectedly, and Discovery has to distance itself from the anomaly and, you know, at the same time, Book's ship, risking not being able to pull Book's ship out when it's done scanning. During all of this, Book kind of enters a fugue state where he sees a vision of his nephew on the ship, but right after that, in order to get out of the anomaly, Discovery and Book try a crazy navigational maneuver involving programmable matter and the holographic signal, which it didn't make any sense to me. Anyway, Book again sees his nephew and loses his focus, like just as they're about to try this, or in the middle of it, in what I would describe as a grief spiral. And in order to refocus him and get him back in the game, get his head back in the game, Burnham has to talk him off the ledge. But she has to do it as his partner, not as the captain. At Saru's absurdly cringe suggestion, using a private comm channel right in the middle of the bridge by means of a cone of silence type thing.
Do you want me to leave the room?
That won't be necessary, Hodgkins. We can talk under the cone of silence.
The cone of silence?
Well, this is a magenta alert, isn't it?
The cone of silence.
Which just seemed very silly to me. But I don't know, like, why not take 2 seconds to go to her ready room? Let me see if I can lay this out for you. Burnham's in the captain's chair, and this moment comes up where someone needs to talk Book off the ledge. And so Saru goes, Captain, he needs to talk with you, but as his partner, not as the captain. Meaning, you're going to have to get personal and rely on your personal connection to him as his lover, and not as a captain might talk to someone in this situation, which is fine. But even there, this is kind of the problem with giving the captain of a ship an ongoing love interest, right? Because in the other shows, they never did that. And it was because they were, first of all, supposed to always be able to be clear-headed and make command decisions and not be worried about, significant other relationships. And another reason is because, well, at least in the original series, they wanted the captain free to dilly-dally with a new chick every week. But another reason was because it was part of the loneliness of being in command. Part of the, not so much loneliness, but part of the isolation of being in command that was part of every commander's character on these shows. The solitude of it. And it would always be part of their character. It made them who they were, that they were always alone, quote unquote, that their love was always the ship, or their love was always the service. And, even to the point where Captain Kirk talks about, when did any of us have time to have a family, in Star Trek Generations? And to the point where, when he's stuck in the Nexus in that same film, it's at a time when he was going to break Antonia's heart and tell her that he was going back to Starfleet. The point being that they can't stay away from their duty very long. They can't, from a sense of duty, for very long. They can't tear themselves away from service. They can't tear themselves away from the chair. This was always a part of the commander's personality to one degree or another. It was a little different with Janeway. It was a little different with Archer, but this was the deal. And now they've given her this love interest, which was fine, but now she's the captain. And so you're going to have moments like this where she has to go back and forth, and it's just not, you don't do that on Star Trek. And then add to it that they've created this cone of silence thing now on the bridge. It's literally a bubble that comes up around her in the captain's chair so that no one else can hear her. And it's like, really? Really? On the one hand, it's cool, but like on the other hand, on another show, if they needed to have a private conversation, they would get up and go 3 steps to the ready room. On Next Gen or Voyager, for example. So it's like, wow, really? They did a cone of silence thing? Again, there were on the other shows episodes or moments that dealt with the interpersonal, or romance relationships of the characters, but they were few and far between. Where on this show, they've got to work in something about that every episode because the show is serialized. And it's just annoying. It's a soap opera sort of element of serialized shows, and now it's part of Star Trek. It was before in a way, but not like this, like on DS9. Anyway, Book tells Burnham she was right about him not being ready after this is all done. But she says he came through, and Book expresses regret about not having stayed connected with his family over the too long period that he spent away from home, which reminded me of some Kirk moments, as well as at least one Picard moment, which goes back to what I was saying a minute ago, that this kind of thing, this not having family, this not having serious connections outside of the people who serve under them, comes back to haunt these characters when they're older, or when they've been that way for a long time. And it was part of what made them who they were. But now, not Michael Burnham, because she's not going to have that problem, right? Anyway, Tilly learns that the anomaly spontaneously changed direction after Discovery departs the vicinity of where the anomaly was. and therefore that the data that was gathered will not help predict the anomaly's behavior, which is the whole reason they collected it. As well as that, you know, this being so, for all they know, it's going to go anywhere at any time. But she stops short of saying that it almost seems sentient, which occurred to me immediately, but apparently not to Tilly or Saru, to whom she's telling all this, even though they're trained 23rd century scientists. But I have a suspicion that's what's going to come up, that it's sentient. Anyway, that's pretty much the episode. You know, I'm disappointed because I had such high hopes for this season after the premiere, but I should have known better, really and truly. I should have known, yep, they pumped out one good premiere episode. You know, they pumped out one good episode to start the season when they really needed to, you know, deliver a good episode, but it's just going to get stupid after that. And it did. I don't know. I really don't know. But that's really it. I don't know what else to say. I'm going to keep reviewing the show. Maybe the third episode will be better. I don't know. Anyway, until then, my friends, I wish you peace and long life.